I have been a moonshiner ever since that I've been born. I've drunk up all of my money and stealed up all of my corn. I'll go up some dark hollow and put up my moonshine still. See, I'll make you 1 gallon for a $5 bill. I'll go up some dark hollow and get you some booze. See if the revenues don't get me no money, will I lose? Come on, all you moonshiners, and stand all in a row.
Wait, we promised we're not gonna say you know, and we're not gonna say
You're right. We're not.
I need you to say Okay, let's see how you're gonna start off.
Welcome to like the usual.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's climbing up those stairs 150,000
I'd much rather have the camping
times.
chair. I'd much rather sit in the camping chairs.
I think so too.
So tell me where you want these chairs so I can move them this week and put different chairs in their place. I'm going to put these over there. I'm just going to put them over there.
I like that. Let's put them on each side of the plant so that the plants look like they have an audience too. They'll love that. They'll have company. I can sit over there and talk to them.
Okay. Are we recording right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright.
We're going to have like a 4-hour-long episode of nothing but bloopers.
Do you keep all the stuff you edit out?
Yeah.
So we can make a blooper reel.
We can make a blooper reel.
We should. We should make a blooper reel. Just an easy episode of just blooper reel.
Let's get some street cred before we show them how fucked up we are.
Good point. Okay. Welcome to Appalachian Haunts and Hates. I'm Michael.
Missy.
So today we're going to talk about rugby. And we went to rugby. We did some filming. We talked about the hauntings and apparitions that are there. And we went to the general store.
Yeah.
I don't even know that I remember the name of it now off the top of my head. But anyway, it's been there since 1917. The same family's been running it since the beginning. 5 generations, I believe.
Yeah.
And they have the most delicious bologna sandwich. If you go there, if you go to rugby, go to the general store. I'm confident. You'll drive right past it going to rugby. I'm confident they'll know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head because I wasn't really planning on talking about the general store.
We printed out a picture
I know.
of it.
I wasn't even planning on talking about the general store, so I didn't remember the name. But anyway, it's run by Gary and Tiffany Terry. I do know that. I want to say Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
Edwards, not right. Anyway, whatever it is. They have the most delicious bologna sandwich. If you get the bologna sandwich, get the Tiffany. You won't regret it. So, rugby was founded in 1880 by Thomas Hughes. He was concerned about he was an author, politician, lawyer. He did all kinds of things. He was concerned about the second sons, I guess, of the landed British families, because the first sons inherited everything, and the second sons got nothing, usually. So he wanted to create a utopia where the second sons, and in landed British families and rich British families, there were very few honorable or reputable
and aristocratic.
Reputable occupations they could do. So he created a town where they could come and live away from their families and work with their hands and create a utopian environment. It didn't last long as utopia. It kind of phased out over the years. There was a typhoid epidemic. There were some rough winters. Some rough times. These were people who weren't used to living in the frontier. The Rugby was in the frontier at the time. Tennessee was frontier at the time. For the most part, even in 1880, they were still frontier. And it was hard. It was hard to live in the Middle Tennessee in the 1880s. It was hard.
I mean, you would have to have some really, really tough skin. You would have to have a lot of know-how. You would have to know how to live off the land and, kind of just be dependent upon yourself.
But Hughes never lived in the town. He did have a house built for himself, Kingston, Lyle. We talk about it in the video. But he never lived there, even though people claim that he haunts the place to this day. His mother did live there, but he showed up about once a year. Made an appearance. Made an appearance about once a year, and ended up, living and dying in somewhere in England. So that's our episode. Bugs me that I can't think of the name of the general store. Hold on. Let's look it up. Brooks.
Yes.
R.M. Brooks.
R.M. Brooks.
Okay.
Yep.
R.M. Brooks store. They're famous. They're very well known. They are known for their bologna sandwiches. Get the Tiffany, you won't regret it.
Is there such thing as a delicious bologna sandwich? I have to ask that. I'm just going to go ahead and put that.
Not normally. I didn't think so until I had a bologna sandwich from the R.M. Brooks General Store.
I am diametrically opposed to bologna. We know this.
But how was your pimento cheese?
Oh my gosh, that was so good. The broccoli and cheese soup, that was probably the best I've ever had. That was amazing. If I ate bologna, it might be the most delicious ever to you bologna eaters. But
I'm going to say I'm not a huge bologna sandwich fan, but their fried bologna sandwich, it comes with an egg. And I'm pretty sure we've had this conversation on the show.
We did.
That if there's a sandwich that comes with an egg, I'm going to try it. It comes with an egg.
And
fried egg.
Okay, we have to say that started in Burkesville. Kentucky.
No, it did not.
No?
Truthfully, it started as many years ago. I have eaten egg sandwiches. Sandwich was an egg with ham sandwiches. I used to make ham sandwiches when I was younger and put egg on them.
Man.
So ham sandwich with mayonnaise, lettuce, tomato, pickles, mustard, cheese, and a fried egg.
This joker can put eggs on anything.
Eggs are good. Eggs are good everywhere.
Every morning. Well, I guess I'm going to go downstairs, maybe some eggs. Just make some cereal.
Eggs are good on everything. So that's so we went to Rugby. We talked about we went to the cemetery. Went to several of the.
Oh, that was so cool.
Cemeteries are always cool.
Yeah.
We went to several of the places that are alleged to be haunted, and we had a good time. And that's our show. That's our episode.
Yep.
And we hope you enjoy the footage. And we will see you next week or the next episode. That's it. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Okay. So this is the old Pine Haven School in Jamestown, Tennessee. It's abandoned now. But there's a legend here. And it needs to be told. Sometime in the early 20th century, a boy named Paul was leaving school one day and decided to go to the bathroom. He got done to wash his hands, and as he was washing his hands, one of the school bullies came in behind him, thinking it was funny, pushed his head up against the mirror. Well, I guess he pushed a little harder than he intended, or maybe not. And the mirror broke. After the mirror broke, the boy fell. When he fell, he hit his head on the side of the sink. Fell to the floor. Dead. Or so he thought. So this bully kind of panicked a little bit. He used his pocket knife to dig up the floorboards, put the body down in the floorboards, and covered it back up, and went home. So, several stories at this point. So, some say that a few days later, the teacher smelled the body and found the body, and they recovered the body. But other people say the body was never recovered. Some say that the fall killed him. Those that believe that the body was covered believe that the fall killed Paul. Others believe that he died of exposure from being under the school overnight. But one thing people are sure of in this story is that Paul haunts this building to this day. They say, and we're not going in, but they say that you can go to the bathroom at the sink where Paul stood. If you look in the mirror, he'll be behind you. And he's likely to push your head up against the mirror and drag you down into the floorboards with him. And that's the legend from Pine Haven School in Jamestown, Tennessee.
Yeah, it's in pretty rough shape here. We don't want to.
The building?
Yeah.
No. Pretty old building.
Yeah, it's not as old as a lot we've seen, though.
No.
If you know, you know. Additionally, if you know, you know.
Other Welcome to Appalachian Haunts and Haints. I'm Michael,
Missy.
and behind the camera, as usual, is Missy. We're at the R.M. Brooks General Merchandise Store. This store was established here in Rugby in 1917 and has continuously been run by the same family for 5 generations. They're famous for their fried bologna sandwiches, and today I'm going to go in and try their fried bologna sandwich. So we're at Laurel Dell Cemetery in Rugby, Tennessee. This is the oldest cemetery in Rugby. This is where, when they had the typhoid, when Rugby was first founded, they had a typhoid epidemic, and this is where they buried the people who died in the typhoid epidemic. Also, over here to my left is, you gonna walk with me?
We're walking.
Let's do it. This is the tombstone of Beriah Riddell. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And next to him is his wife, Mary Jane Riddell. They were the owners of Twin Oaks when it was built, when Rugby was first founded in 1880. On a side note, because it entertains me, Mary Jane's maiden name is Bean. Just, because that entertains me. So, I'm sure we're related somehow, because, as my dad always told me, all beans are related in some way. So, but, I just thought that was an interesting tidbit. On another note, Beriah Riddell owned a patent in Canada for a pallet jack that would, for a hand truck jack that would pull objects like barrels onto the jack and raise them up to make them easier to transport. Just a little nugget there on old Beriah. They also say that Beriah and his wife had a washerwoman named Matilda that lived with them. She was they called her a washerwoman, but she was, let's just say, if this had been a Puritan neighborhood, she had been killed as a witch. The things she knew were, while the Puritans would have burned her as a witch, or whatever they did to witches in Puritan communities, her abilities to bind wounds and to create tinctures for healing and things of that nature were of much use in the frontier areas of Tennessee, or in the frontier areas in general. So she also was said to be able to speak to spirits, which also the Puritans wouldn't have found very enjoyable. So, we're at the Newberry House in Rugby. The Newberry House has been hosting guests since 1880. You can still rent a room right now. It was built in the mid-1880s. Built in 1880, and it was originally called the Brown House because it was built by a guy named Otis Brown out of Boston. Now, I'm not talking very loud because I'm trying to buy private residences and I don't want to disturb people in their homes. So many guests have reported disturbances in the night, waking in the middle of the night to find the apparition of Charles Oldfield standing near their bed. Mr. Oldfield had been sent to Rugby to report on its progress, to see how things were going. And he liked it so much, he wanted to stay. So he sent for his wife and his son. And the night before they were to arrive, he died. Newberry House has a Charles Oldfield room. And they say that people have woken to see him standing above them, or have had their blankets pulled off of them in the middle of the night. Nothing nefarious, just active. Now, there are people who believe the spirit is the spirit of Mr. Davis. And Mr. Davis is a different story. Mr. Davis was the manager of a place called the Tabard Inn. The Tabard Inn, the original Tabard Inn, burned down, and they rebuilt it. And Mr. Davis and his wife were the managers of the reconstructed Tabard Inn. Well, at the time, there weren't a lot of women in the colony, so Mrs. Davis was very popular with the men in the community, and they would throw a lot of parties and balls, and on one particular New Year's Eve party in 1897, Mrs. Davis got a little too friendly with the men in town, or certain men in town, maybe. And Mr. Davis brooded for about 3 weeks, they said. And after he brooded for about 3 weeks, he went to their room in the Tabard Inn, room 13, which is the room they took for themselves, because they struggled to rent it out because it was room 13. And he slit his wife's throat and shot himself. Now, I don't know where the Tabard Inn was located, but they say that, well, it burned down again in 1899. And they say that when it burned down, the room 13 was the last room to burn, and witnesses could hear cries and screams coming from room 13 as the room burned. But they were able to salvage some of the furniture from the Tabard Inn, and some of that furniture is in the Newberry house, and that's why people think that the apparition that people are seeing is not Charles Oldfield, but Mr. Davis, the man who killed his wife. This way.
The church.
Amen. On that. The British flags. Hand Creek Cottage. It's the only place, rental place I've seen where people are actually outside, you know?
Yeah, but a lot of these are like bed and breakfast. I
Yeah.
mean, if I went to a bed and breakfast, I don't want to be bothered by nobody.
That's true.
You know, I want people to, I just want to be left alone. I want to be hanging in some cool place in Rugby
It's true.
with no phone. This is so neat. There are so many just little nooks and crannies and all these places.
I've never seen this part of Rugby before.
So, talk about what some of the requirements to live in Rugby are.
Oh. Yeah. Like right now?
Yeah.
Well, to live in Rugby, there's really only one requirement. When you build a house here, it has to match the rest of the houses. It has to be 1880s Victorian. And as you can see, some of these houses are newer houses, but they look Victorian. That one looks empty, doesn't it?
It sure does.
They were going to tell the story from the car. What do you think?
Yeah, totally.
You can film it. Well, no. Well, I guess I can talk behind the camera, right? Right, so this is Roslyn. Roslyn was built in 1886. At that time, it looks like now, it has circular drive and elaborate gardens around the house. The homeowner rented the place to Mrs. Richard Tyson, and she brought her son Jesse and her daughter Sophia to town with her, and they lived with her. Jesse enjoyed racing a carriage pulled by a 4-horse team around the house and down the road. Many visitors to this day report hearing and seeing this carriage team racing along the road and then disappearing into the woods. Now, archaeological studies have determined there once was a road on that route. Residents have also seen small things happening in this house. A door locking itself, footsteps in the hall, a lady dressed in Victorian clothes, not white,
Oh,
Victorian,
I have to roll. We'll talk about that later.
pacing the halls and crying. And people believe that is Sophia Tyson. This is Kingston Lyle. This house was built for Thomas Hughes, the founder of Rugby himself, even though he never made permanent residence there before the colony failed. Now, he had this house built for himself. There aren't any reports of anyone dying in this house, but visitors have reported hearing the sound of someone snoring in the upstairs bedroom. It usually happens in the morning, also occasionally during afternoon tea time. Some people have also reported seeing the bed linens disturbed when no one was there. There are also claims that Hughes haunts the library.